Today I'm going to do a couple of patterns. I'm going to try to throw a couple out that are pretty easy and straightforward. The theme is red. I've got I think that's a size, it's either an 18 or a 16. I think it might be an 18. Hook in the vise here along with a silver tungsten bead, and I'm going to be using a white thread here. Aside from that, we're going to be using a little bit of microtubing to make a body and a little bit of dubbing at the top. I've heard some people call this the Red Hot Chili Pupa, so let's go with that. Always willing to throw the Red Hot Chili Peppers out there somewhere, so why not? So I've got my little piece of microtubing here in place, and I'm just going to go ahead and take some wraps up towards the front, locking that in place, and take a couple more wraps backwards. And then I'm going to take this pretty deep around the bend of the hook, and the nice thing about this tubing, once you've got it secured, is it's stretchable. So we're going to want to put a pretty good stretch on this. Not so much, you'll learn along the way, but not so much that it's going to break, but enough that I'm getting less and less material that's being attached to the hook here. I want to leave this bottom part here fairly dark, and I'm going to control that a little bit with my thread wraps. So I'm not going to want to take a lot of thread wraps back towards the back end. And that will leave the kind of nickel hook, the dark nickel hook, kind of showing through that red micro tubing here. And I'm going to build up just a little bit of a taper here, and I turn my vise sideways from time to time, as I always do, just to see how we're looking. So I'm pretty good with where we are right here. And so what you can see is up on this portion, that white thread is really covering up that black nickel. Down here, it's translucent enough that it's not showing the black nickel is actually showing through a little bit more. And our micro tubing here is transparent as well. So by doing it this way, the bottom portion of this fly down here is going to be a little bit darker, and it's going to get a little bit lighter as it moves up, just because we've used a white thread on that to kind of control that. So with that, I'm going to take my microtubing, and the first few wraps around the base here, I'm going to pull that microtubing fairly tight. And then what's going to happen is we're going to relax that tubing a little bit as we move up. And what that will do is give us a thicker rib of microtubing as we move towards the eye of the hook or behind the bead here. It's kind of subtle, but hopefully you're able to see that. First, by relaxing that microtubing, that we're getting a more pronounced rib of the microtubing moving up, but also because of the white thread that we kind of bulked up on behind the bead, that this flies a little bit lighter now up towards the bead and a little bit darker down towards the back. So I've got that locked in place at this point. I can just pull my microtubing, stretch it pretty good, give it a clip, and it's going to suck itself right back behind that bead there. And really, we're almost, that's just about all there is to this fly. We're going to add ourselves a little bit of kind of a flashier dubbing. Today I'm just going to turn to a Whitlock's dubbing blend that's got a little bit of the ice dub looking stuff in it. And I'm going to go for more of a kind of an olive color here. So it'll match that, hopefully match that red pretty well. And we're just going to build up a little dubbing collar here, so you don't need a whole ton of this material, but we'll get that kind of dubbed on. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that a little bit. Take a few wraps backwards, a few wraps forward, and just about like that. You know, I've got kind of a chunky little collar on it right there that has a little bit of flash in it. Olive colors blending in nicely with the red. This fly is going to hunt, I guarantee you. I've used much like a bare naked lady fly, which is similar to this, although without as much dubbing or any dubbing. From there, I'll just go ahead and whip finish, and we're going to cut our thread off. So there you've got it, the Red Hot Chili Pupa, I guess. It's a good name for it. Great pattern to tie, very easy to tie. It's going to get down in the water really quickly with that tungsten bead on the front. And these red patterns, I'm going to tie up a bloodworm here in just a second. They really fish well, especially in the winter months or in the early spring. So give it a shot.